Hello guys, we are back in new fanfic, and if enjoying this then please share and like part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. A 4-year blonde boy looked at his father with teary eyes. Get out, Naruto. I have no time to deal with a monster like you, Minato snarled, refusing to call the boy his son. Naruto just stood there with tears in his eyes and hung his head. With that he left not only the room but also the house. He ran through the village, not seeing the frowns or hearing the hushed whispers of the people he ran past. Finally he reached the forest of death and slipped through a hole in the fence and vanished into the deadly wood. After what felt like hours he finally stopped and slumped against a big tree to cry. The big animals of the forest turned their attention to the newcomer. Hunger flashed in their eyes as they followed the crying voice. They saw the crying boy, but something stopped them. The aura that surrounded him. It wasn't malicious but soothing. It felt calm. So instead of pouncing and devouring the kid, they tiptoed to it and lay around it, creating a big circle of calm animals around it. You shouldn't cry over such a bastard. A sudden demonic voice stated firm. Who are you? The boy sobbed, not looking up. Come on, I will bring you to me, the voice stated, and the boy felt a tug on his consciousness before he was enveloped in darkness. Naruto opened his eyes and saw a wide green area with a giant forest on the side and a traditional Japanese house behind him. He wiped away the tears to get a good view. His mouth hung open. Behind you, the voice said simple. The kid turned around and saw a tall man in a blood-red kimono standing on the veranda. But what caught the boy's attention were 9 orange tails swaying behind him. Kyuubi? The kid asked, the pain completely forgotten. You are quite good, kiddo. I would have thought that you would snap at me or cry for help. The man ran hand through his hair. Naruto tried to find the right words. Yes. Kyuubi inquired. Can you talk differently? You sound scary. The kid shuddered a bit. Kyuubi stared at its host for a moment before a chuckle escaped him. You are quite okay, kid. He laughed in a normal voice. Naruto stared at Kyuubi with big eyes. Come here, kiddo. We have some talking to do. The Biju smiled and sat down at the veranda. Naruto hesitated for a moment before he walked over to the man and sat beside him. He looked up to the man's face and tried to give a smile. I have an offer for you, Naruto. The man stated, firm but not angry. What do you mean? The kid asked. I offer you training to get stronger. The man began calm. Really? The kid jumped up and looked at the man with glittering eyes. But it will be harder than anything you have ever endured in your short life. He continued calm, not noticing that he was interrupted. Naruto, on the other hand, didn't listen anymore. He was too eager to get stronger, to be interested in the malicious training the Kyuubi would give him. I can get stronger? Naruto inquired. This kid is a monster. Nobody would accept my training knowing it would be hell on earth. The Kyuubi thought, surprised. Yes, you can get stronger. But remember that my training will be hellish. Kyuubi stated firm. Naruto looked at him with big puppy eyes. The Kyuubi sighed. Okay. But let's make some things clear. The man sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. This kid will become the strongest of the strongest. The man thought with sigh. First of all, my name is Kurama, not Kyuubi. That name came from you humans. Kurama stated firm, making Naruto nod. Okay, Kurama sensei. Naruto smiled. Sensei. This has a good ring to it. Kurama thought as a smile grew on his face. Secondly, I will give you 2 gifts. He began but was interrupted by Naruto jumping at him, giving him a big hug. Kurama sat there with the little kid hugging the life out of him. He stared around, not being used such a sudden affection. Following the memories of his former host, he returned the hug. Minutes later they parted and looked away from each other. Kurama coughed and tried to restart the conversation. Well, okay, to your gifts. He coughed. Naruto nodded, also not really used to another person's touch. Since I'm the strongest Biju, I can give you a part of my father. He paused. I will give you the Rinnegan. He stated firm. Naruto looked at him puzzled. It's the best of the 3 dojutsu. The Byakugan and the Sharingan are good but not as good as the Rinnegan. Kurama explained with a serious face. Naruto's eyes grew bigger and gave a eager nod. But the other gift will be painful. Kurama continued. Why? Naruto asked, confused. I will give you a body-related Kekkei Genkai. This will change your body and this process will be painful. The man stated, calm but the worry in his voice audible. How much? Naruto asked, not really sure if he could handle it. It will feel like your whole body is melting before it begins to reconstruct itself. I will keep you in here during the process so it won't be all too bad, Kurama explained. Naruto only nodded and looked towards the wide green meadow in front of the house. He seemed to collect himself for what was coming. Kurama eyed the mental embodiment of his container. Can we do it now? The kid asked, calm, showing that he was ready to bear anything thrown at him. Okay, let's do it. Kurama's smile turned evil and his demonic voice returned. Naruto was immediately engulfed in red chakra and began to scream. The change of his body had begun and Kurama had set to work on his container. Meanwhile, the Hokage sat in his office and stared at the door. The same door he had thrown out his son hours before. A heavy lump forming in his gut. Hey kiddo. A new voice greeted and ripped him from his thoughts. He turned to the side and saw an older man with long spiky white hair crouching in the window. Hey Jiraiya-sensei. What are you doing here? The blonde man asked. Can't I visit my student once in a while? The old man asked in a mock-hurt tone. The Hokage gave him a "Are you seriously asking that" look and the toad sage shrugged. I'm here because of a prophecy from the toads, he stated serious. Minato perked up at that and gave his former sensei a big smile. The prophecy speaks of a child born from the two strongest ninja of this era. The child will bear a burden and a strength inside of it. Walking the path of light and warmth, it will our savior or be casted to darkness and be its destroyer. The toad sage finished and Minato paled. What have I done? He thought. Minato, I believe that child is Naruto. He holds the Kyuubi and is the son of the strongest ninja in this era. You have to let me train him. The sage nearly pleaded. Why? Simple. If the world ends, then he can't make his precious research anymore. When Minato on the other hand didn't answer and paled even further, making him look like Orochimaru, Jiraiya just had to ask. What's wrong, kiddo? I have made a big mistake. He stuttered and hit his head against the table with a loud thud. His sensei looked at him confused. What do you mean? What did you do? Jiraiya asked with a very bad feeling in his gut. Minato stayed silent and repetitive banged his head against the table till he bled. Only then he raised his head and looked at the old man. I think I already casted him into the darkness. These simple words made Jiraiya's fears triple. His own student had casted his son aside for whatever reason he had at the time. What did you do? He asked, hoping he had somehow misheard his student. He came to me, a few hours ago, asking for training. I just snapped and called him a monster, and that I didn't want anything to do with him, the Hokage stuttered under the growing evil look of his sensei. You did what? The man yelled so loud that the room vibrated. Sensei, Minato began but was cut off. Don't sensei me now, Minato. With that, the toad sage dashed from the office in search of his godson. Minato on the other hand looked at the spot his sensei stood moments before with a pained expression. While Jiraiya dashed through Konoha in search of his godson, deep inside the forest of death a screaming voice was heard. The animals laying around the boy looked at the spastic body screaming his soul out. Not one of them knew what to do, so they stayed in their places. The screaming continued for another hour till Naruto fell silent. The snake closest to the boy edged forward to look at him and saw that his body had changed. In comparison to his former short, maybe a bit tubby body, he was now a bit taller and well trained with abs. But something else caught its eyes. There under its skin something moved. It was like hundreds of small snakes moving through his body. A sudden groan made every animal look at the kid's face. What happened? Naruto groaned as he opened his now purple eyes. I have finished changing your body. Starting tomorrow you will start your training under me. But for now you should look around. You have some new friends. Kurama stated calm. Naruto sat up and looked around. He saw a huge amount of animals lying around and staring at him. From giant tigers and snakes on the floor to enormous owls on branches above him. Hey. The kid waved calm. That woke them from their trance and they stood up. An inch-long orange snake with light green eyes slithered up to him, up his leg and slipped in his right sleeve. Closely behind the snake came a small black fox with yellow eyes that jumped on his shoulder and nuzzled its head against his. Finally, a brown owl with red eyes landed on his other shoulder and looked at him with its big eyes. "So you guys wanna come along?" he asked calm. The fox and the owl nodded while the snake's head emerged from his sleeve and nodded at him too. Then Naruto turned to the bigger animals to ask their permission. They gave him a nod and vanished back to their hunting grounds. "So what about names for you three?" he asked, gaining a curious look from the three. "I think they already have names, kiddo." Kurama laughed as the animals shook their heads. "You were right, but they can't tell me. So I need names for them." The kid thought back. "I could establish a mental link between you four. Like this you could communicate with them even if you ever get separated. And I could teach them some stuff while you are busy," Kurama suggested. "That sounds good. Let me ask them." Naruto smiled and turned to his new friends. "What do you three think about sharing a deeper connection with me? My sensei can help us," he asked, and they looked at each other. While they thought about it, Naruto began to look around. With his changed vision, everything seemed so different. He could see blue mist lingering in the area. "Is this chakra?" he thought, surprised by his sudden intellect. "Yes, it is, and let me guess you're surprised by your sudden increase of intellect, right?" Kurama chuckled. "Obviously, sensei. I'm just 4 years old and now I'm as mature as an adult, if not more." Naruto sighed inwardly. "I'm sorry, boy, but this was a side effect of your transformation. You gained all my memories, but you can't access them all at the moment." Kurama shrugged. Naruto just shook his head and turned his attention back to his new friends, who seemed to wait for him to finish his inner conversation. "So what do you three think?" he asked, and they all nodded. "Then sensei work do your wonders." Naruto smiled. Small twigs of chakra emerged from his belly and slithered into the three animals. Naruto watched this in wonder as his sensei's memories came to him. "So you three, what are your names?" he asked again. "I'm Sublime," the snake girl hissed. "Akun." The owl nodded her head. "And I'm Minka," the fox girl purred. "Well, I'm Naruto." Naruto smiled at them and began to walk back home. "Wait up, old man. You will pay the price for shunning me," Naruto thought with a evil smile. "What old man?" Akun asked as she tilted her head, making the other two look at him too. "Oh, I forgot that we all share a mental link." Naruto shook his head. "The old man is my father, the Hokage," he answered, making their eyes go wide. "You are the son of the Yondaime," Sublime whispered. "Only by blood." Naruto growled, signaling the three that it was a sore topic. "This is going to be a topic for a later time," the three thought simultaneously. "You know that I can hear you, right?" Naruto thought with a smile. The three blushed and looked away, not really wanting to look at him right now out of embarrassment, while Kurama's howling laughter echoed through their minds. Flashback end. Naruto sighed at the memory and looked upwards. Above him sat Sublime and Minka, looking at the elder Namakazes with disgust. Akun went back to the forest because her mother needed her for something. After the four had met, Naruto had devoted himself to training and studying. He had graduated early together with his best friend Itachi, and they joined the Anbu Corps together. Shortly after Itachi became a captain, his friend followed him in his rank. Naruto just sighed and stood up and stretched his back. As he stretched his arms out, Sublime slithered back into his sleeve, though she was at least 3 inches long now. Minka jumped on his shoulder and the three vanished in a leaf shunshin. Hours later, Weasel kneeled before the Hokage after informing of the Uchiha's coup against Konoha. Minato sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. He would have no choice but to order their execution. "Hokage-sama, may I give you an option of my own?" Weasel asked firm. Minato gave him a questioning look but nodded. After a short chakra spike from Weasel, another Anbu captain appeared beside him. This one wore a fox mask and a black cloak. He also kneeled before the Hokage. "Why have you called for me, Weasel?" he inquired. "The Uchiha clan are going for their coup. We are in need of your seals," Weasel stated, making the Hokage raise an eyebrow. "What could an Anbu know about seals that I don't know about?" he thought, curious as he caught the glimpse of the family picture on his desk. He cringed at the sight but shrugged it off, which didn't go unnoticed by the two Anbu. "Hokage-sama, I agree with Weasel. With my seal it wouldn't be necessary to any Uchiha," Fox stated just as calm as Weasel. What are you talking about? I am a seal master after all, and I don't know of any seal that could help us in this situation, Minato stated, a bit angry. With all due respect, Hokage-sama, I have a seal to deactivate the well-known Uchiha curse, Fox stated again. Minato was about to dismiss the Anbu and have him demoted when Weasel held up his hand. Hokage-sama, I'm living proof of effect of the seal, he stated, and pushed the hair from his neck to show the Hokage the seal placed there. Minato stared at the seal with shock. Explain yourself, Weasel, he barked. During our time in the academy, Fox and I were great friends. He noticed my sudden changes in behavior and investigated it. Soon he found the reason for my change. I'm one of the few Uchihas affected by the family curse. He designed a seal of his own together with his familiars and placed it on me. I felt the grip of the curse over my mind lift immediately. We even had it checked by the great Toad Sage and he approved it, Weasel explained monotone. Minato stared at the two Anbu captains in shock. Jiraiya-sensei knew of such a talent in the Anbu Corps and didn't inform me. Why would he do that? The Hokage thought with narrowed eyes. You speak of familiars. What kind of familiars? Minato inquired. To his shock, a orange snake slithered from Fox's sleeve and a fox peeked out from inside the hood. Minato tensed a bit but was soon stopped. These two are two of my three familiars, Hokage-sama. The snake is Sublime and the fox is Minka. The third isn't present at the moment because she had to visit her mother, Fox explained calm. The Hokage stared at the teen before him and his animal partners. Why does he seem so familiar? He thought, a bit confused. Hokage-sama, Weasel stated, firm, getting his attention. Can we deploy? He asked. Do that, Weasel. Fox, you will be in charge of the operation. Take a squad with you just in case, the Hokage ordered. With that, the two Anbu captains vanished. Minato sighed and slumped back in his chair. A new seal master was in Konoha and he had even found a solution to one of the oldest problems in Konoha. He actually managed to create a seal against the Uchiha curse. Suddenly his mind returned to the picture on his desk. In it was his whole family. Kushina with Naruto in her arms standing by his side and Naruto standing further away from the three, just barely in the picture with a scowl on his face. He sighed as he once again realized how much his son had distanced himself from his family after he had yelled at him years ago. The Anbu squad appeared in the Uchiha compound, already briefed on the mission. You know what to do, Fox stated cold, receiving a nod from everyone. With they dispersed and got to work. While the Anbu hunted down their respective targets, Fox and Weasel had their eyes of three very important people. You take Fugaku-san while I handle the elders, Fox whispered to his friend, and they parted ways. Weasel sneaked into the house and towards Fugaku's office. Said man sat at his desk and thought on how to start the coup. He didn't even see it coming as his body was suddenly paralyzed. Out of the corner of his eyes he saw an Anbu with a weasel mask. Itachi, you traitor, he thought as his son placed a seal tag on his neck. The moment the seal activated, the man felt his mind becoming clearer and sharper. It was as if a heavy burden was lifted from his mind. The paralyzing effect left Fugaku's body soon after and he stood up unsteady. What did you do to me? He inquired. I deactivated the family curse with a seal, Itachi stated monotone. But how? His father was confused. With a seal a friend of mine developed. His son shrugged. But won't a seal wash of over time? Fugaku inquired further. No. This seal is embedded into your skin and only visible through a special seal master technique. Mine is only visible because it wasn't so far developed at the time I got it, he explained while showing his neck to his father. Fugaku eyed the seal before he shrugged. I guess I will have some things to make up for, to my family especially, don't I? He asked and received a nod from his son. But not today, father. Mother and Sasuke are at the Namikaze compound right now. I had her away from the compound because I didn't want her to be hurt. Now I have to return to my comrades till everything is over. Itachi smiled and left Fugaku to think to himself. I hope I can make up for everything I did over the years. He sighed and fell back in his chair. Meanwhile, everyone affected had a seal placed on them and squad returned to the Anbu HQ. Fox appeared once again before the Hokage and kneeled down. Hokage-sama, he called. Minato looked up from his work. Report Fox. He ordered. The Uchiha coup has been evaded. Everyone affected was marked with the seal and reports from the squad showed that the seal worked perfect. Fox reported. Just who are you? Minato thought. Fox, remove your mask. He ordered. Naruto rose an eyebrow but complied. As the mask left his cold and emotionless face, Minato paled. There before him kneeled his son who should only have made it to Genin by now with cold purple eyes. Wait, purple. Naruto has blue eyes. Wait. These look like the Rinnegan. Could it be that he somehow gained the strongest dojutsu? But how? Minato tried to think of a solution. Is that everything, Hokage-sama? Naruto inquired, calm and cold. Minato only nodded weakly and Naruto vanished in a shunshin with sparks appearing in his place after he had put his mask back on. Minato just sat there and thought about his mistakes. Thank you for your help, Naruto. Itachi whispered as they entered the changing room. Don't worry about it, my friend. Your family is as much of a family to me as it is to you. I don't know what I would have done if they all had died tonight, Naruto stated firm as he threw his uniform in his locker after the girls slipped out of his coat and went to the shower. Itachi joined him soon along with some others and everyone began to hold small talk. Meanwhile Naruto and Itachi stayed silent. You know, Itachi, there is an addition to the seal I have never told anyone about, Naruto stated, suddenly getting his friend's attention. The effect of the seal will be handed down to your descendants, but it will also give them immunity to mind controlling or altering seals, he stated with a shrug as he shut off his shower. You should return to your family. I will handle the report to the Hokage, he stated and left the shower room. After half an hour of walk, Minato finally reached his house and entered with a hung head. From inside he could hear the voices of two women. One was his wife Kushina and the second was Makoto Uchiha. They were having their usual girl talk. I'm so proud of Naruto. He and Itachi are the best stealth squad ever. Makoto cheered a bit. Minato frowned at that. Makoto knew of my son being an Anbu. He thought sad as he realized once again how much he missed in his son's life. Kushina didn't seem to be any better because her friend's words pierced her heart like a stake. She felt so empty. Naruto is a Anbu. Why does Makoto-chan know more about my son than me? Why won't you let us in anymore, Naruto? We are sorry. She wailed inwardly but kept her smile on the outside to not worry her friend. Is he really that good? Kushina inquired, eager to hear more of her son. Good. You should have seen him. He wasted the Anbu commander when he entered them for badmouthing one of his friends. Makoto laughed and the Namikaze's jaws hit the floor. He is strong enough to defeat the Anbu commander, they thought simultaneous. They really don't know a thing about their son. I guess that's to be expected. After all, he doesn't want to open up to them anymore. Makoto thought with a frown, not knowing the reason for Naruto's dislike of his family. Minato decided it would be just this point to make his presence known when he heard light tapping steps behind him. He turned around and saw his 4-year-old daughter Naruko totter to him with her blanket in one hand and with the over rubbing her eyes. She wore her red overall pajamas and looked sleepy at her daddy. Daddy wu I ma nini, she slurred in a half-awake state. Minato stared at her confused, not really sure what she meant. Kushina heard her daughter's voice from the hallway and stood up to look for her. Makoto just stayed behind with her sleeping son in her lap. Are you talking about one of you plush toys, Naruko-chan? Minato asked as he crouched before his daughter, whose eyes shimmered angry at his question. Naruko just blew up her cheeks and pouted while stomping on the ground like any angry child would do. Just as she wants to yell and wake up Sasuke, not that she knew of that, the front door opened and closed. It's not nice to yell so late at night, Na-chan. Shouldn't you be sleeping by now? Naruto asked in a brotherly tone as he crouched down in the door to be at his little sister's eye level. Naruko just stared at him for a second before she jumps forward in a blur and crashes into him. Her small arms trying to wrap themselves around his upper body and burying her face in his bare chest. Minato and the newly arrived Kushina just stare at this sibling moment confused. None of them knew that these two were so close. They also took in his clothes, which were unusual for a ninja. He wore a hakama with black pants and a dark orange, nearly brown, top part and a pair of black sandals. The hakama was partially open and revealed part of his bare chest, showing of his muscles and some scars. Scars a boy his age shouldn't have. The older Namakazes frowned at that. Was this boy? No. This shinobi really their little boy? From Naruto's behavior it seemed like she was used to seeing him like this, but for them it was a different thing. Their son wouldn't allow any contact, and if he did, only the bare minimum. That sent another pang of pain into their hearts. Kushina didn't even notice the Rinnegan in her son's eyes because of the pain. Hokage-sama. Namikaze-sama. He greeted without any emotion and gave them a curt nod, ripping them from their thoughts. Then he picked up his sister, who in the meantime had snuggled herself deep into her big brother's chest for the most wanted comfort, with one arm, and walked into the kitchen to get himself a glass of water. As he passed the couch on which Makoto sat, he smiled. "Good evening, Makoto. How are you today?" He greeted the Uchiha woman. "I'm fine, thank you, Naruto. Anything special going on today?" she asked with a smile that hurt the older Namakazes once again. "Not that I know of." He gave a light shrug. "Oh come on, Naruto. I know something was up. If it wasn't, Itachi wouldn't have asked me to leave the clan compound for the day," she scolded the boy in a teacher-like voice. Noting goes past you, Makoto-chan. Naruto sighed, getting a blush from the woman. "You are right. Something happened. Fugaku and the elders wanted to push the coup." He filled a glass with water while Makoto gasped. "Did you?" She trailed off, staring at her son's best friend. "If I did, I would be at a bar drinking myself to death and not come here like it was nothing, you know that." The teen scolded the woman who hung her and accepted the answer. "No. I finished the blood seal a while ago and we applied it to all members affected. The danger is gone and everyone is alive." He smiled as he gulped down the water. "Thank you, Naruto, for always being there." She trailed off once again, but this time because she felt a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry about it. The Uchiha clan are part of my family, so it's only natural that I look out for you." He gave her a knowing smile, which she answered with her own. "If will excuse me now. I'm tired and I have to bring this little daredevil to bed." He sighed as Naruto giggled at the mentioning of her nickname. "Sleep well then." The black-haired woman smiled. "Will do. Get home safe, Makoto-chan." He smiled and walked upstairs. There was a potent silence for a minute before Kushina opened her mouth. "What was this about, Makoto-chan?" she asked in a sweet tone which barely hid her jealousy. "What do you mean, Kushina-chan? I was just having a talk with a friend of mine who just happens to be your son." "Is there a problem?" the Uchiha replied with a calm smile that vanished right after she finished and made space for a dark look on her face, making the Namakazes nervous as her matured Sharingan flashed up. "That reminds me. I think we should have a long-needed talk," she growled, making the other two sweat. Nobody noticed that little Sasuke slept through the whole thing. Naruto carried his sister towards her room, but she just shook her head, still buried in his chest. "I don't wanna sleep by you," she pouted and looked up to use her air blow. She changed her position on his arm and looked up to him. Naruto made the mistake to look down and was immediately caught in her move. Her eyes were big and teary and she held her blanket to her chin with both hands, plus showing him a quivering lip. The teen fought with himself, his will straining itself not to fall for Naruto's puppy eye jutsu. After 10 seconds his mind gave in and he sighed. Okay, you win. Again." He shook his head with a smile and muttered the last part to himself. She just smiled and snuggled against him again. He walked into his room and grabbed into the top part of his hakama and pulled out a small bag of ninja weapons and placed it on his nightstand. He then fell backwards on his bed and took a deep breath. "Sleep tight, Na-chan." He smiled as he felt her curl herself up into a ball on top of his chest. "Night, Ninny," she whispered as she drifted off. Naruto just sighed with a smile and looked at the ceiling. "So what do you think, sensei?" he thought. "About what?" Kurama asked. "The seals we put on the Uchiha. I think it was a good idea to use the seal. If you hadn't, you would have lost a lot of your precious people today. I know, but I have the feeling that something bad is going to happen in the future because of it." The teen sighed. "Don't think about it for now. You should get some rest," Kurama stated firm. "Will do, sensei." With that he closed the mental connection to the fox and drifted off to sleep. "I hope you are wrong about this feeling, boy," Kurama thought, unsure but also not knowing that his three familiars listened in on them. "I hope so too." The three thought simultaneous. One might want to ask where Sabaim and Minka had been since he exited the Anbu HQ earlier. Simple. While he took a shower, the two went to his room and went to their respective sleeping places, knowing that Naruto would want to sleep by him tonight. They had heard her being a bit uneasy about releasing her chakra today. Akun in the meantime looked after her newborn siblings while her mom was out searching for food. Unlike normal owls, the owls of the Forest of Death cherish the family bond, so it wasn't rare to meet more of them hunting together. So tell me, why does your son hate you so much? There must be a reason for his behavior. Makoto asked, eerie calm but with glare, making the parents shrink back into the couch. Well, Minato began the story about his mistake. Flashback. We demand that this monster ISED right this instant. We can't allow the Kyuubi to live on. A fat merchant shouted in anger while the rest of the civilian council cheered, agreeing with their partner. None of them ever liked the boy since they only saw the Kyuubi in him, not the boy called Naruto. I will not my son because you don't like him. But it shows how little faith you have in me, your Hokage, Minato yelled as he let loose his intent. From now on referred to as Ki. But Hokage-sama, he is a danger to the village, Tsubaki Haruno shouted, agreeing with the other counselor. Shut your trap, Haruno. You are only jealous because Minato-san chose Kushina-san over you, cheap whore, and now you want to make her suffer because of it, yelled Fugaku, enraged by this woman behavior. This surprised everyone quite a bit. The usual cold and collected Uchiha head snapped at a civilian. It's a first time for everything. Minato smiled. I agree with Uchiha-san. Danzo stated calm, making everyone narrow their eyes on the old warhawk. What are you think of, you old bastard? Hisashi thought, angry. I believe we should make him into a perfect weapon for the village. With it we can expand our territory even more. He stated with a smile, not noticing the menacing glares from the Shinobi Council and the Hokage. Yes, as a emotionless and loyal weapon it would at least have a worth. Homura stated, also not noticing the angry looks. I also agree. Let it be trained by Danzo. He will make the perfect weapon out of it. Kaharu agreed with her partner. That did it for Minato and he snapped. Anbu! He shouted, making his chakra flare. The hidden Anbu core understood their order, and before any of Danzo's root could make a move, the Anbu appeared behind the three council members and slit their necks, ing them immediately. A stunned silence made itself known in the council room as everyone watched the three dead council members. The shinobi side looked with satisfaction because they never liked these three, and the civilian side turned pale and feared for their lives as their biggest supporters had just been executed. Now, Minato growled with a blood-promising malicious grin. Let me make this clear. No one, and I mean no one, will harm my son in any way. Should I hear of any kind of attack or mistreatment towards him, I will not hesitate to execute everyone responsible. Did I make myself clear? He growled and everyone nodded, suffering under his malicious ki. Suddenly it vanished and a smile made its way his face, as if the outbreak just now didn't happen at all. Minato looked towards his dead advisors and Danzo, making a disgusted grimace. Anbu, get rid of these corpses. They smell. He ordered in a slightly whiny tone. The Anbu did as ordered, but everyone else stared at him in shock. So where were we? He asked casually with a smile. The shinobi side sweat dropped while the civilians sweated like pigs. After the meeting, Minato sat in his office, tired but happy that he finally got rid of the old warhawk and his associates. These three were the biggest Kyuubi hater supporters in the whole village, but he never could prove anything, and today he finally got rid of them. But he was still in a daze over the new events and the upcoming changes that he let himself open to evil thoughts that Danzo had tried to place in him for a while now. Then as Naruto entered to ask for training, he just snapped at him, calling him a monster and throwing him out of his office. Flashback end. Makoto clenched her fists as Minato had finished his story, making her bones crack under the pressure and making her knuckles stand white against her tanned skin. You better have tried to make it up to him, you two, or I will pound you in the ground, she growled, barely able to suppress her ki. We did, but, Kushina started. Flashback. Minato had just got the beating of a lifetime from his wife after he told her what happened. You better hope that Jiraiya finds him soon, or you will be in an even bigger world of pain, she yelled at the top of her lungs. Usually the whole village would heard her and hurried to aid their Hokage, but because of the soundproof barrier around the compound, nothing left beyond the walls. So Minato had to face the wrath of his wife alone and scared. I will make it up to him, I will start his training as soon he's back. Please don't hit me anymore. He pleaded once again, understanding the old saying. Hell holds no fury compared to an angry woman. Just then the door opened and Naruto stepped in with a cold face. His new familiars already having made their way to his room before he entered the house. His eyes were hidden behind his bangs. His parents heard the door and hurried there. Well, Kushina did, while Minato had to limp there. What greeted them wasn't the son they had expected. Before them stood a child with a emotionless expression on his face while his hair shadowed his eyes. Naru-chan. Kushina tried to give him a hug only for him to step aside. Son? Minato asked, fearing for the worst. Yes, Hokage-sama. He asked, just as emotionless as his face. That made the blonde man flinch. Are you still angry with me? He stuttered while Kushina looked with tears in her eyes for her son not wanting to be hugged by her. Angry? No, Naruto stated calm. That made the man relax for a moment till he continued. Disappointed? Yes. You have no right to call yourself my father anymore. His voice got even colder. But son, Minato tried to reason with his son. No, I moved on. I must thank you for opening my eyes to reality. His cold voice was unbearable. What do you mean, Naru-chan? Kushina asked, afraid of the answer. I realize that this is no world of peace but one of war and constant fighting to survive, he stated, cold, making her flinch again. Now if you excuse me. I have a training schedule to plan out. He finished and walked past his parents. The two older Namakazes just stood there in shock. Minato tried to find an explanation to his son's new level of maturity while Kushina openly cried. What have I done? Minato whispered as he fell to the ground, also having tears stream down his face. Don't get the boy wrong. Naruto has no reason to hate his mother, but with his newly gained maturity and the Rinnegan he had too much to deal with at the moment, Sashi was an obstacle he had to avoid. So the best choice was distance himself from her as well as his father. Not knowing what he was doing to her with his behavior. For the next 5 years they tried everything to reconnect with their son, but nothing worked. He always brushed them off, saying he wasn't interested or he was busy. The distance he had created between himself and his parents had grown too far as that he could repair it easily. Plus he liked the solitude quite a bit. Because of it he had met his best friend Itachi Uchiha. Like this, his behavior had grown into a habit he accepted as a part of him. Though sometimes it pained him to see or hear his mother cry when he brushed them aside once again. Then as Naruto was born he gave them the finishing blow in their mind. Naruto, you are a big brother now. Kushina smiled, handing him his baby sister. Naruto just stared at the child calmly. A smile hushed over his face, which didn't go unnoticed by his parents. Hoping that this was sign that we was opening up to them again, Kushina smiled. You like her? She smiled at her son as Naruto grabbed her brother's index finger with her tiny hands. Yes. He stated calm and her grin grew. Now you can concentrate it on your child and leave me alone. He finished while shattering his parents' hope real hard this time. But Sunwi, Minato tried to reason with him again, hoping it was just a cruel joke. Hokage-sama, I must take my leave now. I have important business to attend to. So excuse me. He stated and handed Naruto back to her mother, who looked equally shocked. With that he turned to the door and left. But before he closed the door behind him he turned around and bowed. Goodbye, Hokage-sama, Namikaze-san. With that the door closed. Unknown to the boy, he had just inflamed their hope with his words. From then on the two concentrated on Naruto and gave Naruto his space, hoping that with them following his advice they would get another chance to gain his trust back. But it also casted him into the shadows. The same shadows that Minato feared because of the prophecy, but they didn't know that. Yet Naruto was thankful for them not trying to get him to forgive them anymore. He had time to think on how fix the rift in the family he had created. Flashback end. Naruto is way too hard-headed for his own good. Makoto relaxed a bit inside. What do you mean, Makoto-chan? Kushina asked as she wiped away a few tears that had formed as she had explained their attempts to reconnect with Naruto. I mean that Naruto cares about you too, but he just doesn't know how to fix the rift he created between him and you. He won't even accept any help because he thinks that it's his responsibility. Makoto sighed sadly. Hearing that their son actually still cared about them made the two smile. I still have a chance to get my little boy back, Kushina thought happy. Why won't you let us help you, son? We want you back as well. Minato thought sad but smiled as he thought that his son just needed time. I have to go now. I want to make sure that everything is fine back home. Makoto stood up and stretched her back before she picked up the still sleeping Sasuke. Good night, you two. She stated calm but with a slight smile. You too, Makoto. The Namikaze smiled as she vanished in a shunshin. Come on, let's go to bed. It was a long day. Minato sighed. Kushina only nodded and the two walked to their bedroom. The two passed their son's room and threw a peek inside. What they saw made them smile. On the bed lay Naruto sleeping with Naruto sleeping on his rising and sinking chest curled up in a ball and ing her thumb. They just smiled and closed the door again, not noticing that Naruto was awake. He had woken up as he felt them nearing his room. He just sighed sad and closed his eyes again. The two reached their bedroom. They just dropped their clothes on a chair each, too tired to do it properly, and fell into bed. Not a word was spoken as they thought about the day. They had always thought that Naruto was just brave because she never came to them during a thunderstorm in the night. Now they knew that she searched comfort with her big brother. Say Kushina, Minato began. She answered. Did you know that Naruto had the Rinnegan? He asked calm. Kushina on the other hand sat straight in the bed and looked at her husband in shock. He has what? She whispered in shock. The Rinnegan. I found out today when I ordered him to take off his mask after he finished his report on the Uchiha mission, he explained, still looking at the ceiling. How? Was the only thing that came to her mind. I have no idea, but it may explain a few things, Minato replied sad. What, for example? She inquired, eager to know more about her son. Why, you are still alive, he stated in a pained voice. What do you mean? She asked, confused and a bit afraid. You remember what happened on the day we sealed the Kyuubi, right? He asked, finally looking at her. Yeah, why? She asked, still not getting what he meant. Flashback. What have you summoned me for, mortal? The Shinigami growled. I have summoned you to seal the Kyuubi in my son, Minato explained as he coughed a bit of blood. You are aware of the price for summoning me, right? The Shinigami asked. Yes, I know, and I'm willing to pay it, Minato coughed. Very well then. The Shinigami sighed and reached out towards the Biju. Something is wrong here, she thought as she eyed the rampaging fox. Yes, the Shinigami is a woman. Deal with it. Nonetheless, she grabbed the fox's soul and began to seal it into the infant before her. While she did, a new voice entered her mind asking her for a favor. A favor she granted wordlessly. As the sealing is complete, she turned to the two dying parents. Ready to be devoured by the Shinigami, Minato closed his eyes, making peace with his mind. But nothing happened. Instead, he felt all wounds of the battle heal and his used chakra return to him. The heavy panting Kushina felt the same. Her strength and vitality returned. Life once again flooding her veins. The two opened their eyes and looked at the transparent form of the Shinigami. Why are we still alive? Kushina wondered loud. Your price has been paid already, along with a huge tip, Namikaze, so there is no need for you to die here today, she stated firm and vanished. The two stared at the spot where the death goddess was just a few seconds ago. What the just happened? Minato wondered loud, only to be hit on the head from his wife. Minato language. She scolded him while looking at their sleeping child. The two smiled at their son, having high hopes for him and happy to be alive to see his future. I knew it was a good idea to listen to his request. Live long and well, Naruto, the Shinigami thought as she watched the family from her realm. The next morning, the older Namikazes awoke with a hopeful smile. They figured that today they could talk to Naruto about his career as a shinobi and his Rinnegan. I just hope you are wrong about what you said last night, Minato, Kushina thought with a tinge of fear that her son could have sold his soul for them. They went to the shower together, both deep in thought but still hopeful. Kushina took off her panties and bra, tossed them into the laundry box and stepped into the shower. Minato did the same with his boxers and followed his wife just as the water began to become pleasantly warm. Both of them let the warm water run over their naked bodies without saying a word until. Do you think he will let us in this time? Kushina asked as she wrapped her arms around her busty chest as if she wanted to keep the coldness of death away. I'm sure he will talk to us. You heard Makoto. He is trying to reconnect with us after all. Minato tried to soothe her worries as he hugged her from behind, pressing his warm scarred body against her soft smooth skin. Though even he doubted the truth of his own words, seeing as Makoto also said that Naruto didn't accept any help from others. Kushina knew that her husband was trying to lighten her mood, but she also knew that he didn't really believe in it himself. The sad undertone was barely audible, but she picked up on it. So what are we going to say to him? She asked as she leaned into her husband's warm and comforting embrace, letting her mind wander away from these sad thoughts for the moment. Seriously? He asked with a light smile on his lips before a concerned expression formed on his face. I have no idea, Kushina-chan. We have not been part of his life for so long because we decided to give him his space, hoping that he would open up again. That I have no idea on who he really is. I have no clue on who our son is right now. He could be same person as back then or even worse, the Jiraiya, for all we know. He explained, only to wince as he felt his wife's elbow being driven in his stomach for comparing their son to the super pervert. Don't even think like that. My son is never like this pervert. I will never allow that. She growled and her anger spiked for a second. At the same time, a man with long spiky white hair sneezed. He cursed loudly as he saw that his precious research notebook was covered in snot. The sound of cracking knuckles behind him in combination with a very bad feeling and a huge amount of intent made him gulp. Slowly he turned around to come face to face with at least 15 very angry kunoichis wrapped up in towels, their hair and skin still dripping from the hot spring. All of them had their respective weapon drawn and eyed the man like a hunter would eye his prey. From kunais over senbon needles to dual katana, every kind of weapon was there and ready to taste his blood. He knew he was Ed, so he said the only thing that came to his mind. Mommy. He squeaked and the woman took their revenge. Painful screams echoed through Konoha as the pervert got his rightful punishment. Both Namakazes heard the screams and both had different reactions. While Minato winced, his wife gave a evil smile. Oh, not again, Jiraiya-sensei. Minato thought, ashamed of his former sensei. Serves you right, you damn pervert. I will never let you live it down that you used Minato and me for one of your damn books, she thought with an evil glee glinting in her eyes. Her husband saw the evil smile and tried to slip away from his wife, fearing for his own safety, but she gripped his arms around her and held him in place. Her eyes wandered to him and he shuddered. He knew his wife still hated the Sanin for his usage of their life for his smut, but this was a bit too much even for her. The screams continued for a few minutes before they died down. Minato feared that his sensei had been silenced forever for his research, but to his relief he could still feel his chakra from there even if it was weak. You are going nowhere, Minato. We have a family to rebuild. The pervert can wait. She stated calm, but the menacing meaning behind her words were clear. Go now and I will rip your balls off and feed them to you at breakfast. He only gulped and nodded. Her features immediately relaxed and a loving smile spread on her face. Kami, what is going on here? One second she is sadistically enjoying sensei's pain and the next she is just like always. Please Kami, tell me she isn't pregnant again. I can't handle another 9 months of her mood swings. I barely survived the time she was pregnant with Naruto. Minato thought desperately. In the heavens realm, Kami sat at a desk together with his sisters Shinigami and Yami. Full house. He stated proud and put his cards down for the women to see. Oh, this is hard. Barely able to top. Except for a royal straight flush. Yami smiled sinister and also put her cards down. Kami's face fell at the sight of the cards before his sister. I'm sorry Minato, but I guess I lost this round. Kami thought, feeling bad for the young man. Alright. Yuki the Shinigami yelled and high-fived her sister. Another sister for Naruto-kun. Tsubaki the Yami yelled, loving the upcoming chaos Kushina's pregnancy would cause. Pay up Ganbu Oni-san. Both women yelled with big smiles. I'm so sorry Minato. Ganbu wailed in his head while arranging everything as the bed wanted it to be. He had once again lost to his sisters. He didn't know why, but whenever they played, these two would always win their destiny poker matches, as they called it. He had the slight suspicion that they both cheated, but he had no actual proof, so he couldn't blame them on it. And how right he was. Both Yuki and Tsubaki were expert gamblers and switched their card with other from their sleeves whenever it was really necessary. Which was about, let's see, in every in-game. They laughed at their brother's obvious depression. The small black raining thunder clouds over his head spoke volumes after all. You think we should let him win the next game? Tsubaki whispered to her sister, who took a sip of her sake. Maybe. It seems like he is pretty depressed about losing to us the whole time. Yuki frowned. Despite the fact that she loved to mess with her brother, she didn't want to see him so down. Come on Ganbu Oni-san, let's go for another round, she offered and handed him the deck of cards. He looked at her surprised, since she never let him shuffle the cards, seeing as he not really good at it. The clouds over his cleared away immediately and he grabbed the deck to shuffle it. To his embarrassment, he dropped the deck and spread the cards all over the table. He looked at his sisters with an apologetic smile and gathered up the cards again. The women just looked at each other and shrugged. They knew he was no good when it came to shuffling cards, but they let him do it anyway, even if it would take forever for him to do it and hand out the cards. Minato, I think I'm pregnant again, Kushina suddenly said as she realized her own mood swing just now. 2 pregnancies tended to give her some experience in the field after all. The Hokage paled at her words and pleaded to Kami. Please Kami almighty, please don't let her be pregnant again. I won't survive this again. He wailed, only to get the feeling that Kami pitied him but wouldn't change it. The two exited the shower minutes later. Kushina completely oblivious to her husband's distress and smiled at the thought of another child. The two dressed and walked towards the steps. The redhead decided to throw a look in her son's room only to see her children still asleep. Yet something caught her eye. Usually Naruto was already out of the house at his hour, but upon closer inspection she saw that the sleeping boy was indeed a shadow clone. Naruto, oblivious to her brother having switched himself with a clone, kept on sleeping in blissful ignorance. The parents felt a bit uneasy at this. Did Naruto go to train or doing his Anbu duties? No. He should have had the day off, seeing as he led a dangerous mission the night before. So that only left that he went to train. Naruto began to squirm on her Oni-chan's chest and he also seemed to wake up. The parents left the room in a hurry to not get spotted by him. Little did they know that he had been awake since the screams about 15 minutes ago. He only stayed silent to not wake up his little daredevil. But now it was time to get up. No better time than now, right? He asked out loud. Snore *ZZZZ, was the only answer he got and he sighed. Guess sensei out of the loop today. Him still being asleep is proof enough of that. Usually he would try to fry my mind to get me up and running around the village by this time. He thought with a frown that lessened and completely vanished when he looked at his original sister. She is really a little angel, he muttered to himself. Just then Naruto's eyes cracked open and she tried to look around. Word on tried. So she began to rub his eyes, still holding onto her blanket with one hand. The clone smiled as her cuteness level rose another notch. She looked upwards towards his face with her legs till pulled up against her chest, and a smile grew on her lips after the first confusion cleared from her mind. Moaning ninny. She yawned as she greeted him. Good morning to you too, Na-chan. He smiled back and stroked her head, getting a soft purr from her. She did that whenever he stroked her head. He didn't know why, but he loved it and he would never let her life it down when she grew up. It was his job after all. As a big brother, I mean. Annoy and embarrass his little sister in front of her friends. Come on. Mom and Dad are already making breakfast. He smiled as her eyes widened at the mentioning of food. He only called his parents like this when he was alone or with his sister. He still wasn't sure on how to fix the wedge he drove in between him and his parents. Unless he knew how, he wouldn't allow himself to call them that in front of them. He had caused them so much pain and yet he saw the love in their eyes. But he also saw the sadness and the pain he caused them whenever he looked at them. It made his tendrils twist when he saw them. What have I done? He thought once again as he swallowed the huge lump in his throat. A lump called guilt. Naruto jumped up oblivious to her ninny's pain and ran to her room in a blur of red. Seconds later she came back in a orange Chinese dress with a dark red lily design on the bottom and a skin-tight black shorts. Think of Sakura's old outfit only in different colors. She looked eager to get to breakfast. Naruto chuckled at his sister's antics and stood up, brushing his hakama of any dust and put his weapon bag into his top so he could reach it anytime he needed to. He followed his sister, or well she dragged him down to the kitchen where her parents were setting the table for the four of them. Minato and Kushina looked at the siblings coming down the stairs and smiled how their daughter dragged her brother around like he was a toy. Naruto sighed as his sister stopped before the table making him fall face first on the floor. The parents winced at his crash but Naruto just sighed and stood up dusting himself off like nothing happened. Good morning Minato-san, Kushina-san. Naruto greeted calmly but they perked up on his greeting. He used their first names not their last names or titles. It was a start and it made them smile. Good morning Naruto-kun. Good morning Naruto-chan. Minato greeted good-natured as his daughter ran around the table like a whirlwind till Naruto picked her up in mid-run. Her legs flailing around still running not noticing that he had no longer any solid ground under her feet. It took her about a minute and the laughter of her parents to realize that she was indeed not running around anymore. Carefully Naruto placed her in her seat and she stayed there like a obedient little puppy and looked at him with big eyes. Naruto realized what she was about to do and turned around to look out the window but his parents weren't so lucky. They were immediately caught in the puppy eyes jutsu. They stared at her like in a trance because she didn't utter any wishes or anything else. Her jutsu dropped seeing that her brother had not fallen for it and her parents shook their heads to clear the fogginess in their heads. While that look should be a class technique, Minato shuddered to what she would be capable of once she became a ninja and using it. What a terrifying technique. I didn't know that Naruto knew such a technique. Kushina smiled but inwardly she also shuddered. You should see her when she uses that move to its fullest. It's scary how she created and perfected this move at such a young age, Naruto stated as if he had read their minds. What do you mean? Kushina was the first to ask. Let's just say that this was the weakest version of her jutsu. When she goes all out even the strongest mind bends to her will. I wouldn't be surprised if Uchiha Madara would buckle in front of this move. He shrugged and sat down beside his sister only to have her grasp his arm with a big smile and hang there like a monkey on a branch. His parents stared at him and their daughter in awe. Neither of them knew of their daughter's powerful move. They also noticed that Naruto was actually talking to them though they knew he probably did it more for Naruto than for them. He didn't want his little sister see the wedge he had driven in her family. He wanted to give her a happy and united family despite all his mistakes. How was your night Naruto-kun? Minato tried to start a conversation. Good I presume. He shrugged as he fed Naruto a piece of toast with egg. She ate it like a good little girl and grinned like a fool but this was just what was so lovely about her. She was young and easy-minded. A pure soul in a village of murderers, after all shinobi warriors and nothing would change that and Naruto would do everything to protect her from this darkness as long as he could but he also knew that he had to let her go at some point of time. What will you be doing on your day off son? Kushina tried to continue the conversation. We will go to the park, Naruto yelled. She then climbed onto his shoulders just like a little monkey and pumped her fist in the air. Her parents burst out laughing at this image while a small smile graced Naruto's face. Come on monkey-chan eat your breakfast and then we can go the park, the teen teased and Naruto nodded laughing. He grabbed her by the neck of her dress and lifted her from his shoulder into her seat. There she began to devour her food like a vacuum cleaner till something in the back of her head clicked. Don't call me a monkey, she yelled finally realizing what her brother said. Now everyone burst out laughing and tried not to fall from their chair. Naruto pouted making her look even more like a little monkey. Naruto took a deep breath and caught himself again. I'm sorry Na-chan. I just couldn't resist. He stroked her head getting an involuntary purr from her. Something her parents caught onto and smiled conspiratorial at each other. Naruto was oblivious to her parents' evil scheming because she was in a world of bliss by her brother stroking her head. The boy saw that she was done with her breakfast and picked her up not stopping once in stroking her. She just cuddled into his chest and he turned to leave. Before he left th room he turned to his parents and bowed slightly so that his sister wouldn't fall. A good day to you, Minato-san, Kushina-san, he stated politely and left. His parents frowned slightly at his last gesture, leaving their plans of teasing their daughter lay forgotten between them. Just seconds ago they were laughing together like a real family, and then he changed back to his colder self and left. They just couldn't understand their son. You thinking what I'm thinking? Minato asked seriously. Tailing them and see what they do, she asked with a glint of pain but also interest in her eyes. Jup. Come on. I'll send a shadow clone to the office to deal with this accursed paperwork. Minato sneered at the thought of his personal pariah. Kushina just nodded and they made a run to follow their children to spy on them. Minato did as he said and sent a clone to do his dirty work. What just happened? It felt like there was no distance between us at all. Naruto mused as he and his sister walked to the nearby park. Could it be that they are tailing me? They probably are trying to learn something about me, he concluded. Good morning, Naruto. A deep monotone voice stated from behind him. Hey Itachi. What brings Konoha's brooding genius to the park? The blonde smiled without turning around. That would be me, Naruto-kun, a feminine voice answered. Naruto only laughed and turned around to face his friend. I don't know how you always do that, Makoto-chan. He smirked and she giggled. That's a woman's secret. She teased with a wink. Oni-chan, can I go play? Naruto asked, hugging his leg. Come on, if you go, Na-chan. Go play with your friends. He laughed at her beaming smile as she ran to her friends. Sasuke stayed by his mother, hiding behind her leg. He was a shy boy despite being a member of such a powerful clan as the Uchiha. He watched the other children laughing and running around with such longing that it hurt the blonde teen. Hey Na-chan, can you come here for a second? He called. Naruto stood by her friends Ino, Hinata and Sakura, eagerly talking about some stuff. For example, on how cool Naruto's big brother was. When she heard her brother calling her, she nodded to her friends and ran to him. He came towards her and crouched down on her eye level. Yi Oni-chan? She asked while tilting her head. Say, can you introduce Sasuke-chan to your friends? He is really lonely and shy. Naruto whispered, nodding towards the young boy. Naruto followed his nod towards a raven-haired boy. He was obviously shy like her brother. So much she figured. He hid behind his mother and tried to make himself invisible. She turned to her brother and nodded with a big smile. The older Uchihas and Namakazes had obviously heard him and smiled. Naruto shot off in a blur and appeared beside Sasuke. He began to squirm under her big-eyed look. You are Sasuke-kun. Wanna be friends? Wanna play with me and my friends? She fired her questions like a machine gun, and before he could answer she dragged him along. He flew behind her like a flag in the wind, completely limp because of the shock. Naruto and Makoto laughed hearty at the sight. Even Itachi had a small smile, though it was obvious that he was trying to break it down with all his might. The Namakazes giggled to themselves at her daughter's eagerness. Sasuke was obviously uncomfortable in the group of girls. Soon a few boys joined the small group and he visibly relaxed. Slowly but steady he began to open up towards them and actually seemed to make friends. Naruto, Makoto and Itachi sat down on a bench and leaned watched their charges. So how are things at the compound? Naruto suddenly asked. Everything is fine. Things are becoming normal again after such a long time. Makoto smiled, not bothered by the teen's sudden question. That's good to hear. Naruto smiled, never letting his eyes wander from his sister. And how are things between you and your parents? Makoto changed the topic with a worried tone. From your question and the tone of your voice I assume that they told you why I'm like this. The teen concluded, emotionless only to receive a hit on the head. Don't play games, Naruto. We are worried about you. Itachi scolded his friend in a rare moment of visible concern. I know. The blonde sighed and leaned back, never letting his gaze wander from the kids. They have tried to reconnect with me this morning, he explained, getting wide eyes from the Uchiha and hopeful smiles from his parents. And how did it go? Makoto asked, eager to see him happy. It went pretty good till I remembered the trouble I caused over the years and it immediately the mood for me. He shrugged, looking down on his hands. Unseen to his parents, small worm-like things began to move under the skin of his hands. Are you alright, Naruto? Itachi asked, not wanting his friend to lose his composure and reveal his secret. I'm fine. He took a calm breath and the worms disappeared. You shouldn't lie like that, Naruto. A new voice said. None of the three turned to the voice as it closed in on them. Seconds later, the flapping of wings was heard and Akun landed on his shoulder. Hey Akun, how are your siblings? Naruto smiled. Don't change the topic, idiot. She scolded her friend. I don't know what you mean, Akun-chan. He whistled innocent. She is right, Naruto. It's not good if you keep it to yourself. Makoto scolded him. Is it just me or is it weird that a Anbu captain is getting scolded by the mother of his best friend? He joked only to get a knock on the head from both Uchihas. Be serious. Itachi stated monotone again. Okay. Sheesh, no need to get your panties in a twist. He sighed, getting a blush from the two. It's my Kekkei Genkai. It has started to act up lately. I think I need a big battle or I need to leave the Anbu force and rejoin the T&I department. Naruto explained, serious with a scowl on his face. The two Uchihas frowned at that. They knew how Naruto was in the T&I department. How much he changed once he stepped into the torture room. It was scary to see him like that and it hurt them each time they saw him. The Namakazes on the other hand were wide-eyed. Their son had been part of the T&I department and had a Kekkei Genkai. How? When? They looked at each other with big eyes. Silently agreeing to talk about this later. What do you mean your Kekkei Genkai is acting up? Makoto frowned. It has begun to lash out from time to time. Not even Sensei knows what is going on. He explained calm, but his eyes showed worry as he looked towards his sister, thinking what could happen to her. What do you mean he doesn't know? He created and gave you this Kekkei Genkai, Makoto whispered in a growl. Naruto's sensei created a Kekkei Genkai. But how? Minato thought. He didn't create it. He came along it during his travels in his early years, the teen stated firm. So he gave you a potential dangerous ability. Makoto was now pissed at his sensei. Hey, how should I have known that this would happen? Kyuubi shouted in Naruto's head, not that they could hear him. What do you mean potentially? It is dangerous. Akun threw in her sense. Language, Akun. The blonde growled, not wanting the kids to hear her. Sorry. She hung her head a bit. But like she said, it is dangerous. I guess I will have to control it till I get a new mission and vent some of my anger. Naruto sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. And how will you do that? From what you said, it's getting harder and harder. Itachi asked with a raised eyebrow. If you haven't noticed by now, I'm a shadow clone. He explained and the two nodded. The boss is training and venting some anger so he can keep it under control. But I was made before he did, so my anger level is still high. He sighed and waved to the children, who waved at them first. Are you sure it's safe for you to be around Naruto then? Makoto was worried for the little one's safety. She is actually what keeps me in control. If not for her, then I would have long since snapped. He said, and a smile came to his lips. The Uchihas frowned at his sudden mood change but soon realized why. Naruto, Ino, Sakura and Sasuke came running to them, barely able to stop before their elders. Naruto, ni come play with us, Naruto yelled and gripped his sleeve. The other three followed her example and began to drag him to the other kids. The kids and the blonde laughed as they began to swarm him. Akun fluttered from his shoulder towards the backrest of the bench. Makoto and Itachi smiled at the scene. They watched as the kids began to run away from Naruto and he chased them, making monster noises trying to catch them. From time to time he caught one of them and tickled them. It was a heartwarming sight to those who knew of his suffering. You are really getting rusty, Kushina. Makoto stated, bored, not letting her eyes wander away. How did you? Kushina asked from her hiding spot. You and Minato both failed to cloak your chakra signature completely, and if I felt it, then he did for sure. He is a censor after all. She explained. I guess we are getting rusty, Kushina-chan. Minato sighed and looked towards his wife. Indeed you are. Akun stated in a sage-like tone, looking over her shoulder towards the two. Yo, you can talk. Kushina stuttered. She hadn't heard Akun's comments before, thinking it was from Makoto. No, I'm a wind-up doll. Of course I can talk. The owl scolded them. But how? Minato asked with narrowed eyes. I'm one of the owls from the Forest of Death and one of Naruto's familiars. We three can speak your language with no problem, she explained with what seemed to be a shrug. I know that Naruto has a snake and a fox familiar, but I didn't know anything about owl. Minato stated, more to himself than to the others. I was with my family for the last few days. She shrugged again. So are you going to tell him that we were here? Kushina asked, a bit afraid to lose her son. Didn't you hear what Makoto-san said? He knew you were here the whole time, she stated and turned to the older Uchiha. Well then I will be going. I have to get to the others or they will hurt themselves again. Akun sighed. Do that and greet Sabaim and Minka for me. Makoto waved and the owl flew off. Suddenly they saw Shikaku Nara raise his hand. The other parents around the park suddenly stopped laughing at the children and eyed the lazy man with interest. With a swift and strong move he threw something towards Naruto, who had his back turned to him. The Namikaze's eyes widened, thinking their son was in danger. Makoto and Itachi on the other hand only smiled. Just before the object hit its target it was caught by the blonde without turning around and revealed itself to be an apple. Still laughing he took a bite and turned to the Nara head. Sorry Shikaku, but you've got to try better than this. Everyone began to laugh and the kids lay on the floor rolling around laughing. Troublesome. He muttered with a smile and the laughter became even louder. What was that about? Kushina asked as she tried to suppress her laughter. Shikaku-san has been trying to catch Naruto off guard for 3 years now, ever since he lost a shogi game to him and failed every time, Itachi explained with a smile. Minato smiled proudly that his son could beat the Nara head in a shogi game. I think we should go now, he stated and his wife nodded reluctant. Good day. Makoto said and Itachi nodded. To you too. Minato and Kushina flashed away in a Hirishin towards their compound. They reappeared in the living room to meet a surprising sight. There sat Naruto, the top part of his hakama stripped off hanging loosely around his waist showing his bare upper body. Tsunade stood before him obviously giving him a checkup. The parents watched her son's beaten up body and saw how fast he was healing along with the many scars. Scars someone his age shouldn't have. But they also saw that there was something moving under his skin. What caught their interest were the many seals on his body. He had level 9 resistance seals on his wrists and ankles, a feat they had only mastered at a later age. Directly above the wrists were 5 others. There was a storage seal with a kanji for weapons on the inner side of his right arm. Directly above it were 4 others, each named with their seemingly planned usage. Sealing, bounty, money, equipment. The same seals were on his other arm. On his neck was another storage seal, but it looked different. It was a chakra draining seal combined with a storage seal in case he suddenly needed chakra. The final thing that caught their attention was the Kyuubi tattoo that covered his whole back. Your body is fine Naruto, but you should cut your training a bit shorter, Tsunade explained, ignoring the namikazes behind Naruto. I know, but I needed to vent my anger. Naruto sighed and cupped her cheek. She blushed crimson at his touch but let him move on. He leaned towards her and gave her a kiss on the lips. Kushina and Minato stared at them in shock. Their jaws hit the floor of the basement seeing their son kiss his godmother. Someone who was many years older than him. The two broke apart with a smile. You know it's rude to spy on someone's private life, Naruto stated, calm, still caressing Tsunade's cheek. Only then the medic ninja turned to the older namikazes with a frown. Before she could say something he put a hand on her shoulder. Please leave them, Su-chan. They are trying to reconnect with me, he whispered for only her to hear. Tsunade knew about what happened between Naruto and his parents and thought it was his right to treat them like that. But lately he was trying to reconnect with them. Well, trying was the word. He was too hard-headed to make this easy. She only sighed but nodded. If you say so, Naru-kun. She nodded to him and began to leave. And greet the girls from me. I will come over tomorrow. He smiled as did she. Will do. With that she walked past the older namikazes. Good day Minato-san, Kushina-san, she stated firm and left. Naruto, what was that about? Minato asked after a minute of silence. What, can't I kiss one of my girlfriends? The teen asked, rolling his shoulder and winced. Guess I went overboard today, he thought, surprised. You guess? Minka thought in disbelief. Hey, I had to vent my anger. Naruto tried to defend himself, ignoring his parents' gobsmacked expression. Hey, no arguing now. It's about to get interesting. Sabaim scolded them. What do you? Oh, the two thought as they realized what was going on. You have more than one girlfriend? Kushina asked in disbelief. Yes, and they are all fine with it. He shrugged, not really sure where this was going. A sudden yell from somewhere in the village startled the three. The way of harem is a month's way. That damn perv. Excuse me for a second. Naruto growled and vanished in a shunshin with dark mist. Minato and his wife stood there shocked but were startled again when painful screams echoed through the village. Seconds later the teen appeared again with a smile on his face, but the screams continued. I think the pervert will keep silent for a while now. He dusted his hands off. What did you do? Kushina asked, eager to know how he punished the pervert. Thrown him into the Hisama bathhouse with a paralyzing seal. He grinned, gaining big eyes from the two. Isn't today Kunoichi only day there? Kushina asked with a evil smile. Yeah, now that you say it. Lucky me, I guess. He shrugged, gaining a shudder from his father. Back to the topic. The Hokage coughed. Okay. Yes, I have 3 girlfriends. 2 of them are from this village and the other one is from another village. He explained. And who are they? He asked in a serious tone. Well, one is Tsunade, as you know. The other is Inuzuka Hana, the daughter of Sum-san. He said, getting another disbelieving look from his parents. And the third? Kushina asked carefully. Her name is. He began, only to be interrupted by Minka. Hey Naruto, a letter from Ryazetsu came by. She yelled, bringing him the letter. There you have it. Her name is Ryazetsu, a member of Kusagakure. The teen explained and took the letter from his fox familiar. And how did it come to that? Kushina narrowed her eyes, not wanting some hussy to get her son. I met Hana. X flashback X. Hey Minka, are you okay? A 10-year-old boy asked his fox companion that he carried in his arms. I'm fine, she stuttered in a pained voice. Minka had gotten hurt because she wandered off and was attacked by a group of simple-minded civilians. It's all my fault. I should have never let this happen. He sighed. Don't beat yourself up. Minka knew that she shouldn't stroll around the village alone. Sublime hissed and the fox tried to nod. Doesn't matter. You 3 are my friends and I failed you. He stated, and a sob escaped his throat. The 4 entered the Inuzuka veterinary clinic only to receive hateful looks when the people saw the fox. Yet none of them dared to say anything, seeing the boy's glare he threw at everyone around him. He registered himself and the reason for his visit and sat down to wait to be called into the examination room. A few minutes passed and he was called in by a girl not much older than himself. He followed her and carefully put the young fox girl on the table. Oh, you poor thing. The girl cooed. She began to examine the fox before she began to treat her wounds. 10 minutes later she was finished and Naruto cradled his companion in his arms. You should be more careful from now on. The girl smiled at carefully petted Minka. Sublime and Akun stayed silent and smiled at the girl. She was a really nice girl. Thank you. Naruto wanted to thank her but didn't know her name. Inuzuka Hana, but you can call me Hana. She smiled and offered him a hand. Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. But please call me Naruto. He smiled and shook her hand. She stared at him wide-eyed. She had heard about him. Her mother once said that he was an emotionless genius. But now he stood before her with a genuine smile while cradling a young fox and having 2 other animals with him. He was so different from the stories she had heard. Nice to meet you, Naruto-kun. Both smiled even more. X flashback end X. That's how I met Hana. After that we became friends and about a year later things lead to more than friendship and we have been dating for 2 years now. He finished his explanation. Oh, that was a good day. Except for the beating I took. Minka thought aloud with a big smile. Oh, and what Naruto did to those Ing villagers was gold, Sublime hissed. What did he do? Minato asked, concerned. Naruto threw his familiar an annoyed look and she looked away sheepish. You remember the feather incident 3 years ago? He asked, making his parents' eyes go wide. The feather incident was a big incident in Konoha's history. Somehow 12 adults, ninja and civilians were hung upside down from the Hokage monument without anyone noticing how they got there. They were badly beaten and had many open wounds. But what was the worst part was that the people were tarred and feathered. So the wounds were clogged with tar. The victims suffered pretty much till Tsunade actually took pity on them and helped them. Even today they had scars from that day. That was you? The Hokage asked, shocked. Yes. That happens when you mess with my precious people. Naruto growled and again the worms under his skin began to squirm. Both parents gulped at that, not wanting to mess with him. And about Tsunade and this Ryazetsu, Kushina tried to change the topic. Well, Tsunade and I have always been close. We talked whenever we had problems, and after I made it to the T&I department she took care of my patients. He grinned evil at the end. Then one day after one of them died during the interrogation I went out to drink and we met up. One thing led to another, and after a lot of talking the next day between us and later Hana made us a three-way couple. Heck, Hana even suggested to get more girls into it, and to my shock Tsunade supported the idea. He explained with a shrug, feeling the last of his wounds heal up. Now both Hokage and wife were floored. The best and always serious medic Nin Senju Tsunade was dating their son. What was even harder to swallow was that the daughter of the calm Inuzuka Sume suggested a harem relationship. Oh, and Ryazetsu and I met during a mission shortly after I joined Anbu. He continued gaining their attention. X flashback X. Naruto followed a trail towards a slave ring he was to destroy. Suddenly a smell caught his nose. What is this? He thought, confused. That's the smell of fear. Hurry up, I have a bad feeling about this. Kyuubi warned him. Naruto did just that and pumped more chakra in his legs. He vanished from sight and shot through the trees, nearly leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. If his sensei was worried or warned him, then it was something serious. Seconds later he shot over a clearing, seeing a girl obviously hurt trying to run away from a group of men. The men looked at her with vicious smiles that unsettled and angered the young Anbu. He remembered one of their faces. He was a member of the slave ring Naruto was sent to destroy. The teen reappeared, skidding to a halt a bit ahead of them, gaining their attention. The men stopped, seeing that someone appeared, while the girl looked at him hopeful. She had a hite on her forehead, so he guessed that she saw him as a lifeline in her situation. As fast as she could, she stumbled over to him. He noticed that the remains of her clothes reminded him of his own Anbu uniform. Could she be a Anbu? But why does she look like this? She should be able to defeat them easily. He thought, confused. Please, please help me. She panted and grabbed his right arm. Her eyes were wide and teary. He could see the exhaustion on her face. The blonde frowned behind his mask. She is suffering from chakra exhaustion. These Urs will die, he growled in his mind. Show them no mercy, Kyuubi bellowed. And no mercy he did. He vanished only to reappear behind them with the head of one of the nameless thugs in his hand. Before the other two could react, they and their headless partner were impaled by black, red tentacles shooting out of the boy's back. Within seconds they were dissolved and the tentacles retreated into his body again. With a groan he stood up, holding his head as his victim's memories were absorbed into his mind. He then turned to the frightened girl. Are you okay? He asked as he carefully approached her. She nodded, shaking like a leaf. Careful, he put a hand on his left arm seal and unsealed a black coat with a gray fur trim. With slight hesitation he put it around her slender shoulders and she pulled it closer. Don't worry, I will bring you back to your village, he stated in a soothing tone. He offered her a hand, which she took, hesitant. Not to startle her too much, he lifted her into his arms, and to his surprise she cuddled into him. His eyes widened at first but then returned to normal, seeing as she needed comfort after what happened to her. He jumped into the trees and created a shadow clone without any hand seals. While he took her to his village, his clone was hellbent on laying waste to the slave ring. X flashback end X. After I got her to her village and gave my report on what happened to her, I wanted to leave. She asked me to stay a bit and introduced herself as Ryusetsu. To my shame, I made a rookie mistake and also introduced myself to her. Before I left, she actually kissed me, to my and seemingly everyone else's shock. We kept in contact through letters at first, but after I finished the long-distance Hirshin seal, I could visit her anytime I wanted to. He finished his story. Now, if you will excuse me, I want to take a shower before Naruto comes back. With that he walked past his parents and left the room. Minato made a perfect impression of a gaping fish. His son was able to create a long-distance Hirshin. Something even he failed to do, and he was a seal master. Kushina meanwhile was busy trying to understand what her son had told them just now. He had told them about his life. Something they thought to be impossible. She caught a final glimpse of Sun before vanished and thought about what else she wanted to know about him. Say, Minato. She began and he snapped out of his shock. Can you get Naruto's medical report? She asked. The parents stared at the report with wide eyes as they scanned through the report of how the villagers treated him over the years. They scolded, thinking on how these bastards treated their child, but knew that they couldn't do anything about it now. Naruto didn't say anything about it, so they guessed that he had it covered in some kind of way. Minato even remembered that some of the people on his new on-site list had vanished around the dates written on the medical reports. No one ever saw them again, and he had shrugged it off with them moving away in secret. But now he just didn't care anymore. If they died, they deserved it. How could they do this? Kushina sobbed into his shoulder. They are narrow-minded fools. They obviously have no trust in my abilities as a Fuinjutsu master. I guess I will have to take some serious steps against the civilian council because they are most likely behind this, Minato growled while rubbing his wife's back soothingly. You would be right there, Hokage-sama. A new voice stated, making the hurt parents whirl towards it. There on the window still sat a black fox with seemingly glowing yellow eyes staring at the two of them. I thought I just heard something. The Hokage muttered, confused, looking for the speaker, dismissing the fox in total. You know you are pretty rude, old man. The fox yipped, making the two go wide-eyed. The fox just talked. Kushina stuttered in shock. No, I played charade. Of course I can talk. Minka growled and narrowed her eyes. How is that possible? Are you a summon? Minato asked, carefully reaching for his kunai. Don't bother to take your kunai. You left them in your desk. The fox stated, firm, making the Hokage sweat. And no, I'm not a summon, but I'm a ninja fox. Actually, you should remember me, old man. We've met lately. She stated flat. The Hokage rose an eyebrow at that and tried to remember any recent encounters with black foxes and came to only one conclusion. You are one of Naruto's familiars, aren't you? He asked, getting an interested look from his wife and a nod from Minka. Got that right, old man. She gave him a foxy grin. But now on to business. I'm here to inform you that 2 more assassination attempts were performed on your son not even 20 minutes ago. The culprits were dealt with and won't cause any problems anymore. Their IDs and personal belongings are sealed in here to be given to their families. She explained and leaned out of the window only to come up again, but with a scroll in her muzzle. She placed it on the window sill beside her and nodded at the flabbergasted parents before she jumped out of the room towards her master and friend. Minato picked up the scroll and unrolled it. He scanned the sealing matrix in it before he placed it on his desk and unsealed the content. 2 IDs and some bloodied belongings appeared in a plume of smoke. Jonin Kazuhana Zubashu and Chunin Asato Tarano. He muttered, looking at the IDs with hatred. Kushina stayed silent, trying to comprehend that her son had a talking fox and seemingly other animals. She turned to her husband and was about to speak as a Anbu appeared and handed the Hokage a scroll before he vanished again. Minato looked at the scroll, then at his wife and back to the scroll. With a sigh he broke the seal and unrolled it. Scanning the content made him go wide-eyed. This maniac, Minato thought, pissed off at the news he just received. What's wrong, Minato-koi? His wife asked, concerned. I need to call Naruto. I have a mission for him. He sighed, not wanting to send his son, but he knew that he probably would be the only one who could do it. Kushina looked at him worried but said nothing. Her husband flared his chakra and an Anbu with a dog mask appeared. Yes, Hokage-sama? He asked, kneeling before his leader. Bring Fox to me. I have a mission for him. The man ordered and his subordinate nodded before he vanished. What's going on, Minato-kun? Kushina asked, getting interested. We are getting rid of a certain snake. He has gone too far this time, the blonde man growled. What do you mean? She asked, confused and disgusted because of the mentioned snake. He seemingly captured a surviving Uzumaki for his experiments before the Anbu could make her an offer to come to Konoha. He growled, making his wife bristle in anger. He what? She yelled as Naruto appeared in his usual Anbu outfit. You called Hokage-sama? He asked, kneeling. Stand up, Naruto. The man ordered and he complied while making a gesture to his wife to calm down. You are to go on a search and rescue mission. The blonde man explained before he passed the scroll to his son. Orochimaru seems to have captured a surviving Uzumaki for his sick experiments. I want you to sneak into Otogakure and rescue her. And get any useful information you can get. Should you be able to Orochimaru without compromising your mission, then do so. The leader ordered serious while his son read the report he was handed. Naruto growled reading it. Blue sparks appeared around his hands before the scroll erupted in blue flames before it turned to ash and fell to the floor. The teen's fists were covered in blue flames, but he sighed and calmed down, making the flames vanish. His parents stared at him wide-eyed. They didn't know that he had such a high fire affinity. Well, he had the Rinnegan, but this was incredible. Will I get a team or should I do this alone? He asked with barely restrained hatred. You will get Squad 3. They will support you during your mission. The team will be waiting for you at Anbu HQ in 1 hour. The teen nodded. Good. Please give the trainees to Weasel. He will make good progress with them. He requested and bowed before he turned to leave. Please be careful, Naruto. Kushina whispered, not wanting him hurt. He only looked at her and nodded before he vanished in a fire shunshin, leaving only a few red feathers in his wake. Are these? Minato thought, astonished at what his son seemingly had achieved. A whirl of flames appeared before the doors of the Hyuga compound. The guards looked at the figure with a smile. Hello, Naruto-san. One of the guards greeted. Hey there, Gonatetsu-san, Sabaki-san. How are you two? Naruto greeted with a wave. Same old. Sabaki sighed. What's with the genjutsu, Naruto? The other guard asked. I'm about to go on a mission and I don't want to change out of my Anbu outfit to say goodbye to my sister. Is she there, by the way? He asked with a smile. Yeah, she is in the yard playing with Hinata-sama. But you could have just changed your outfit with your Kekkei Genkei, couldn't you? Gonatetsu shrugged with a smile and opened the door. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I could, but I don't want to rely on it too much. See ya when I'm back. Naruto laughed and walked into the compound. There he was greeted by 2 blurs hitting him in the stomach, making him fall over. The blurs soon revealed themselves as Naruto and Hinata, both giggling like crazy. Nini Oni-chama, Naruto and Hinata squealed. Hey there, you two. How are you two today? He asked with his fatherly smile. I'm good, Nini. Naruto gave him a toothy grin. I'm also good, Oni-chama. Hinata cuddled into his chest. Now come on, you two. Get of him so that he can stand. Hiyashi laughed from the veranda. The two nodded and let go reluctant. Naruto stood up and dusted himself off. Thank you, Hiyashi-san. The blonde nodded towards the clan head. You're welcome, Naruto-san. The man waved it off. So what can I do for you today, my boy? He asked with a friendly smile. Oh, I just wanted to say goodbye since I'm leaving for a mission soon. The teen smiled, but the clan head knew it was a hollow smile. What could be wrong with him? Is it something about his new mission? The last time I saw him like that was, oh no. He is going after Orochimaru. Hiyashi thought, worried. You better be careful with that man and good luck. Hiyashi warned before he turned and left. I will, Hiyashi-san. Give my greetings to Hitomi-san. Naruto called after him and got a wave as answer. Oni-chama, are you going away? Hinata asked with teary eyes. Don't worry about me, Hinata-chan. I will be coming back soon. I have to find a very bad man and help a new friend. He kneeled before her and gave her a hug, which she returned. Now come here, Na-chan. He held out an arm for his sister to join the hug and she did. The three enjoyed the hug in silence before Naruto had to break the hug. The girls frowned at this and he sighed. I need to go soon. Take care till I'm back. He ruffled their hair and stood up stretching. Before he could take a step, both girls clamped on his legs. He wobbled a bit before he stabilized himself and looked down, only to be met with Naruto's puppy-eye jutsu and Hinata's quivering lip jutsu. Both techniques were irresistible in itself, but together they were like a brick to a window. They usually scored home in 10 of 10 cases, but this time it failed. Sorry you two, but I have to go. He patted their heads and they led of him with sad expressions. Don't worry. I will be back. He laughed and gave both a scroll from the scroll holder on his belt. Ask your parents to unseal them for you tonight. He smiled at their happy faces as they eyed their scrolls. So what? Don't I get a bye-bye? He teased in a mock-hurt tone. Both girls looked at him with big eyes before they clamped him again. Bye-bye, Oni-chan, Oni-chama. The girls yelled before they dashed towards where Hiyashi had left earlier. Those girls. The blonde Anbu muttered before he vanished in a fire shunshin towards the Anbu HQ. Squad 3 was waiting for Fox and checked their equipment. You think he will be on time? Turtle asked. He isn't Kakashi. Eagle deadpanned. And I would appreciate that you don't compare me to him like that. A new voice sighed, making them look to the wall on their right. Hey there, Fox. Sparrow waved. Hey, Sparrow. So you guys ready to get rid of this snake and get my clan member back? Naruto asked, thinking on how he would skin the snake alive. You can count on us. Eagle puffed his chest. Then pack your gear and let's go. Fox ordered, and they left the village towards Odogakure. Come on, Naruto, it's time for bed. Kushina said to her daughter and picked her up. Can you open this for me, mommy? The child asked and gave her the scroll. Kushina looked at the scroll confused and then at her daughter. Where did you get this? She asked. Oni-chan gave it to me. She beamed at her mother. That made the red-headed woman smile. She carried her daughter towards her room, but she began to struggle. I wanna sleep in Nini's bed, she whined. Her mother complied with a smile and brought her to Naruto's room. There she sat her down. While the kid jumped on the bed, Kushina unrolled the scroll and eyed the ceiling matrix. This is definitive one of Naruto's scrolls. The matrix is just as complicated as the one the fox brought earlier, she thought. She placed her hand on the matrix and pumped a bit of chakra into it. In a plum of smoke, a man-tall Naruto plush toy appeared. Before she could say something, a giddy squeal made her turn towards her daughter. Naruto saw the huge Naruto plush toy and jumped it with a wide grin. She clamped it so hard that Kushina feared that she would press the stuffing right out of it. Deciding to get her daughter to bed, she picked her and her new toy up and placed them on the bed before covering them with a blanket. Immediately the little girl drifted off thanks to her brother's smell on the doll. She has such a brother complex. Kushina smiled before she gave her daughter a soft kiss on the forehead and left the room, closing the door behind her. She then walked down the hallway towards the living room as she looked up into the dark sky. Please be careful, Naruto, and bring our lost clan member back, she whispered up to the stars before she walked back to her husband. It's been 8 days since the Anbu team left towards Odogakure. The 4 Anbu crouched in a tree in front of the town and watched the Odo Nins walk by. They had spent 4 days researching Odogakure's security and loopholes in it. They found each way in and out of the village and searched the village till they knew that their target wasn't there. Through luck they found the entrance to Orochimaru's underground facility. Hadn't Akun suggested to follow the snake Sanin's right-hand Kabuto, they would have missed it. Today they would invade the facility and hopefully find the kidnapped Uzumaki. They knew that Orochimaru hadn't started his experiments yet because he only returned the day before. They haven't spotted us yet. Your suppression seals work wonders, Fox. Sparrow whispered. Yeah, they are awesome. Turtle grinned, not that anyone could see behind his mask. Concentrate. Fox hissed, serious, making them shut up. Eagle and Turtle, you will try to spot the Uzumaki prisoner and report to me. Sparrow and I will search for Orochimaru and any research we can find. The fox-masked teen ordered, stern, getting 3 nods. Good. We will meet back here in 2 hours. Don't trust anyone till they verify themselves with the code we prepared, he finished, and the group split in 2 directions. Minka, you go, and Sublime will go scout through the air vents of the underground facility. Akun, you will scout from the sky and provide us with informations about the enemy's formations, he ordered his familiars, and all 3 vanished. How will they provide us with infos while they are gone? Sparrow asked, confused. The 4 of us have a telepathic connection with each other, Fox whispered, getting wide eyes from his partner. Awesome. But are they enough to find our target? Sparrows whispered back. No, they aren't. That's why I will send a few shadow clones in there as well, Fox stated, and made 6 clones. You should cut down on the clones. The more we are, the easier it is to find us, you know that, man. Sparrow scolded him, thinking his friend knew about these facts. Don't worry about that. Naruto grinned. Sparrow looked at his confused and then at the clones. He gasped as he witnessed how they simple began to fade from visibility till they were completely gone. How? He whispered, panicked. You know that my Kekkei Genkai enables me to shapeshift, right? Fox stated, more than he asked. Sparrow nodded. He has seen what his friend and superior could do with his abilities, but he didn't understand what it had to do with invisibility. I can manipulate each cell in my skin in a way that it reflects the light and makes me invisible to the human eye and even to dojutsus. However, it requires a tremendous amount of concentration and I can only maintain it for 15 minutes. But this should be long enough for my clones to find a fitting disguise, he explained, getting another awestruck look from his friend. Amazing, was all the other Anbu managed to say. Come on, let's go. We need to find the snake. Can't have my girls do all the work for us. He mocked his partner and both moved into the underground facilities. Hours passed since the two familiars invaded the snake's base. They found Orochimaru's whole research and began to seal everything up. Thanks to being around Naruto so much added to their heritage, they could use chakra very good and use sealing scrolls they had sealed in seals that were tattooed on Minka's right forward leg and Sabime's back. That's the last of them, Minka whispered as she dropped the last scroll on the sealing array. Sabime pumped her chakra into it, making the scroll vanish. Then she rolled her sealing scroll up using her tail and picked it up with it. She put it on her own seal and sealed it away. Now I'm tired. She yawned. Come on, we need to go before someone comes here. We stick out like a sore thumb in this room without the tons of scrolls it held before, Minka whispered, and both made their way up the wall, along the ceiling and into the air vent. Sabime closed the lid with her tail again and both made their way to a section between the rooms where no one could enter freely without them noticing. Both sighed and stretched a bit before they lay down for a moment. We got all of Orochimaru's research, Naruto, Sabime thought. Good. Now rest a bit, girls. You earned it. Naruto complimented them and both sighed content. And what about me? Akun whined. Hey, you're sitting on a perch near Orochimaru's office. That's not much of work. Minka growled at her friend. It's not that easy. Do you have any idea how often? Suddenly they felt the connection to Akun being interrupted. What happened? Minka shot up and looked at her snake companion with worry. I have a bad feeling. Maybe something happened to Akun. Sabime was equally worried. Get out of there, girls, and join the squad. They just rescued the Uzumaki and are waiting outside the town. I will go get Akun, Naruto ordered, but they knew he was also worried. The two nodded at each other and bolted down the air vent out of the basin towards the Anbu squad. If what they feared was true, then something very bad would happen soon and they didn't want to be caught in it. Naruto jumped invisible over the roof towards Orochimaru's office. He had sent Sparrow to rejoin with his squad while he went to search for Akun. Please be alright, Akun-chan, he whispered, but stopped dead in his track. There before him he saw a horrific sight. Orochimaru stood on a branch with Akun pinned to a tree by a kunai through her body. He was inspecting her like she was some rare specimen. Anger boiled in his veins, letting his invisibility fail. He shifted into visibility and jumped at the snake Sanin with high speed. He kicked the freak away and looked at Akun with worried eyes. Akun-chan, he whispered in sorrowful voice. Hey, you, too, how, or why, oh you, she rasped while he pulled the kunai from her body. Don't worry, I will heal you. He hurried through a set of hand seals and ignited his hands in green flames. Flaming palm jutsu, he stated and reached for her. His hands touched the wound but seemingly did nothing. Tears began to collect in his eyes as his jutsu had no effect and the flames began to disappear. She only shook her head, making him sob. Please, Ace, abs, orb, me, like, I will be, a part of you, for ever, she rasped painfully. I can't. I don't want to lose you. He sobbed, letting his tears fall. Please. She rasped with a serious glint in her eyes. Naruto only nodded, not trusting his voice, and let the tendrils wander from under his skin and encase her body. The cocoon of tentacles got smaller and smaller before it was reabsorbed into his body. Clapping from behind him made him turn around. He already felt the presence and knew who it was. His heart pained, his blood boiled in anger, and the tendrils in his body were out for blood of his enemy. A very interesting ability you have, the kid. I should capture you and investigate it. You make a fine specimen, Orochimaru stated with a maniac-like grin, thinking how unbeatable he would be with it. With a furious battle cry, Naruto charged forward and transformed his hands into 4 2-inch-long claws on each hand, while his eyes glowed red from Kyuubi's power overlaying the purple color of his Rinnegan. Orochimaru barely escaped the enraged teen's attack and stared at him in shock. This Anbu was dangerous and he knew it. I need that power for myself. he thought with a sick grin and retched Kusanagi up. He had just enough time to rise the blade to block one of the clawed hands while the over was driven in his stomach. He spat blood before Naruto threw him with all his power. The claws slipped out his stomach with a sickening fleshy sound against steel. As he flew, he tried to stop his innards from escaping his body before he crashed into a house and came out on the other side. The pain made him flinch and his hand actually slipped, making him lose a kidney that was followed by a trails of blood. The passage through the next house made him lose an ear that was ripped of as it got caught on a metallic grid and he yelled in pain. Another building later felt his bones shatter from the impact through the back wall. The pain prevented him from holding stomach wound and other organs were thrown out of his body by the following crashes. Liver, kidney, spleen, pieces of his intestine. At the sixth building he finally stopped before he slipped into unconsciousness for a short moment. Orochimaru. The teen yelled and released Kyuubi's and hissing intent over Otogaker. The intent alone made the ninjas collapse or commit suicide. The teen's senses tingled and he let his instincts take over like learned in the past. His body was soon covered in black and red tendrils as it began to morph. 2 long spikes shot out of his back and grew in size and length. When the tendrils vanished seconds later, it showed a heavily armored Naruto with clawed hands and 2 giant bat wings. Instinctive, he shot in the air and flew to where he had thrown the snake Sanin. The man was embedded into the wall of a house, seemingly unable to move. He groaned trying to free himself, but his arms and legs were broken. He noticed something approaching him and looked at the monstrosity before him with interest, jealousy and fear. Something he hadn't felt in years. This is your end, Naruto yelled and swung his arms forward as he crashed into the snake man. Both flew through another set of houses before they came to a standstill. As the dust settled, Naruto became visible standing over Orochimaru's body holding his chopped-off head in his clawed right hand. Blood dripped from the cut-off head. Fear being written all over his face. The blacklight user threw his head back and his armored face split. A horrific jagged mouth opened and a fleshly yell escaped his throat and he threw the head across the town and unknowingly towards his Anbu team. He then shot through a series of hand seals. You will all pay, he thought in his fury-clouded mind. His remaining familiars winced in pain. They felt what happened to Akun through their connection and the fury of their friend. It hurt them. He was usually so calm and collected, but now he was like a walking machine. Nothing would stop him. What's going on there? Where's this intent coming from? Eagle whispered, afraid. I don't know, but I don't think who or whatever it is isn't after us. Turtle shook in fear. It's Fox, he snapped. Akun is dead, Sublime whispered from Sparrow's shoulder, making the 3 look at her. That's Fox? Eagle asked, afraid, getting a nod from the 2 animals. You think we should help him? Turtle asked, shaking like a leaf. No, we better stay out of his way. I don't know if he would recognize us right now. Minka sobbed, not wanting her friend to be reduced to a bloodthirsty monster just after she left her longtime friend. Then we wait. Sparrow nodded and looked at the unconsciousness Uzumaki prisoner they freed. Naruto shot through 62 hand seals in under 7 seconds and took a deep breath. Blacklight release. Tendrils of death, he shouted with hatred, and his body exploded into an army of tendrils that shot through Otogaker. The tendrils absorbed everything in their way. They shot through each alley, each house, each underground chamber. Nothing survived their onslaught, and within minutes the whole town was deserted of any life, and the tendrils shot back to their summoner before his body formed again in the center. Kyuubi repressed the memory influx from the victims and stored them away for later, but noticed something in them. Interesting. How did that get here? The Biju thought, smiling. With a groan, the Anbu captain collapsed on one knee and released his transformations. His breathing was heavy and he seemed to be in a world of pain. Not only emotional but also physically. Are you alright, Naruto? Minka asked. The only answer she got was an exhausted feeling from him. Please answer us, Naruto. Sublime begged. Physically, yes. Mentally, no. He finally answered. I'm coming over, as soon as I regained my composure. He sighed. A few minutes later he stood up and felt for the presence of his squad before he face-palmed. Tell them to remove the suppression seals so that I can find you, he thought, feeling his friend's nod. Suddenly 3 presences appeared on his radar. With a sigh he made his way over to them and landed on a branch before them. The squad looked at him fearfully while his familiars climbed over to him. Sublime snaked up his leg and wrapped herself around his upper body, nuzzling her head against his left cheek while Minka jumped on his shoulder and rubbed hers against his left cheek. The comfort from his familiars eased his mind and he regained the sharpness of his mind. He knew that he would mourn for his fallen friend, but now wasn't the time. He already lost control minutes ago. He couldn't allow himself to break down here. They still had a mission to finish. "Are you guys alright?" he asked his team. The three nodded, still a bit afraid of him, but Sparrow knew that he had all reason to snap. He knew how much his familiars meant to him, and with Akun's death he just lost control. To his surprise, the captain didn't use any of his tenant's chakra. "Come on, let's move to a safe clearing. I will use Hiroshin to bring us back home," he ordered, and the three steeled themselves. "Yes," all three said and followed their leader. Something caught Naruto's eye and he stopped to look at it. There, in between a set of twigs, hung Orochimaru's chopped off head with his fearful grimace burned onto his face forever. He picked it up and sealed it into a scroll on his belt. His team eyed him surprised. How did he throw that so far? They all thought, amazed, already coping with him slaughtering a whole village. He was a powerful ninja after all. The team continued for a few minutes till they stopped in a clearing. Turtle shifted the unconsciousness Uzumaki on his back a bit. "Okay, everyone, grab a hold of me. I will activate my Hiroshin seal in the Anbu HQ, Fox ordered. Everyone complied and grabbed a hold of him before they vanished in a red flash. Seconds later they reappeared in the Anbu HQ. Turtle was shaking a bit, trying to regain his balance. Fox grabbed his shoulder and stabilized him till his teammate could stand on his own and wouldn't drop their charge. "Turtle, you bring her to the hospital and let only Tsunade check her. This girl is probably one of the last Uzumakis out there, and I don't want anyone get their hands on her. She is family after all," he ordered, and the man nodded before he vanished in a shunshin. "You guys go and take a break. I will give my report to the Hokage," he ordered the other two, who nodded and walked to the showers. He transformed back into his Hakama outfit. He vanished in a shunshin and reappeared before his family compound. He sighed and reached for the door as a sultry voice called out to him. "Oh, Naruto-kun," the feminine voice called. The teen turned around and came face to face with Anko Mitarashi. "Hey there, Anko-chan. What are you doing there?" he asked calmly, though he smelled her arousal. "Oh please, Naru-chan. I want the date you promised me," she answered in a sing-song voice. "Did you talk with the girls like I told you to?" he asked, thinking that she just ignored his earlier warning. "Yeah, and they agree. Even this Ryazetsu girl." She shrugged, getting a surprised look from him. "Okay, not what I thought would happen. But hey, I'm a guy and she is hot. What a combination despite the recent events," he thought, getting sad again as he remembered the loss of his familiar. "Then I guess you are ready to meet the family and will get your date after it," he shrugged with a smile. "Oh, already introducing me to your family? Aren't you a fast one?" she teased, and he snickered. Sublime and Minka remained quiet, hoping that their dear friend would regain some of the spark he lost just recently through Anko. It's been 8 days now and Naruto was getting impatient. She wanted her ninny and she wanted him now. So she vented her anger like any child would. She yelled. She cried. She stomped on the ground. She lay on the floor and hammered on the floor with her tiny fists. Minato and Kushina tried to calm her down, but nothing they did work. They tried to distract her and it worked for a while before she wanted her ninny again. "I don't know what else we can try." Minato sighed, hearing his daughter yell again. "We have to do something. Naruto's mission had no set time limit." Kushina sighed. "I know. It could take him months for all we know." Minato groaned as Naruto yelled even louder as she heard him. "Did you actually think that I would take that long?" A male voice cut through the yelling. Suddenly silence made itself known in the Uzumaki Namikaze compound. Everyone turned to the source of the voice in a robotic-like motion. Everyone's eyes widened when they saw who just spoke. There in the door leaned none other than Naruto with a lazy grin. Yet Minato and Kushina could see the obvious pain in his eyes. Even the two familiars looking over his shoulders looked somewhat sad. What could have happened to make them so sad? These three look like someone just wait, 3. Naruto has 3 familiars. Where is the owl he told me about? Oh Kami no. Minato thought as his mind began to piece the story together and his eyes widened. No one said a word, only the occasional sniffing of Naruto was heard. She was happy that her brother was home, but she felt somehow uneasy. Something about him told her that something bad happened to him. She also noticed that Akun was missing. She didn't understand, but it made her sad somehow. Usually it didn't bother Hita much if the owl left for a while, but she somehow felt that Akun had left forever and she didn't understand it. Come on Na-chan. Don't you want to say hello to me? Naruto covered his pain with the fatherly concern he always gave his sister and crouched down. She only nodded and walked over to him and entered his offered hug. The two stayed like this for a while till a snickering from the door caught everyone's attention except for Naruto. In the door leaned a kunoichi in a fishnet suit with a beige skirt and a beige coat. Her purple pineapple hair swayed lightly in the breeze. Who are you? Kushina asked, confused. Well, I'm Mitarashi Anko, special Jonin and your son's new girlfriend. She introduced herself with a mocking smile and bow. The parents stared at her and their son in shock. He had yet again another girl in his harem. How many girls does he want to get anyway? The two thought simultaneous. Who is that ninny? Naruto asked cutely, already forgetting the bad feeling. Oh, to be young and innocent again. Everyone there thought sorrowful. They all had lost this innocence during their life, each one of them in their own way. She's your new Nei-chan, just like Tsunade, Hana and Ryazetsu. He explained with a smile and let the girl out of the hug. Naruto stared at the young woman a bit longer before she squealed and jumped the woman. She hugged her around the waist and laughed against her stomach. Anko stood there confused and a bit embarrassed. The blush on her cheeks was proof of that. Oh, isn't that cute? Sublime asked innocently and pouring more oil into the fire. Naruto squealed even more hearing that she was cute and hugged the woman even harder. Anko tried to squirm out of the child's grip but couldn't without hurting her, and she knew how precious this little girl was to her new boyfriend. Minku looked at her friend with a tilted head and the snake only nodded with a knowing smile. The black fox understood immediately. She was trying to get Naruto's thoughts off Akun's death and it seemed to work for the moment. Hokage-sama, I want to give my report. Naruto explained, serious, and formed a shadow clone. He then picked Naruto from Anko's waist and handed her to his clone, and she snuggled into his chest, gaining herself another snicker from the blushing Anko. I think you should come along, Anko. This concerns you just as much. The teen stated, getting a confused look from her and his father. All three vanished in a shunshin and reappeared in the Hokage office. Minato took a seat and awaited Naruto's report. The mission was a success. We were able to recover the target. We also recovered all of Orochimaru's research. Naruto explained, getting wide eyes from Anko, who stared at him in disbelief. Naruto unsealed the Sanin's head and placed it on the Hokage desk, gaining gasps from both of them. During our mission we split in two teams. While Eagle and Turtle went to find the target, Sparrow and me left to find all research data and Orochimaru himself. Two of my familiars took it upon themselves to raid his research library, while my third familiar observed the surrounding to inform us of any suspicious movement. Shortly after Minka and Sublime sealed away all of the scrolls, Orochimaru discovered my familiar Akun and gave her a lethal wound. I snapped and ended him in rage. After that I proceeded to use a jutsu of my Kekkei Genkei. With it wide everyone in Otogakure. There were no survivors from what it seemed. Once I recovered from my berserker state, I made my way back to the team and we returned using Hirishin. I ordered Turtle to take the target to the hospital and only let Tsunade close to her. He reported. Minato gaped at his son wide-eyed. Not only did he admit that he let his emotions get the better of him, something a ambush should be able to withstand, but he also explained that he slaughtered a whole village. No matter how small it was a huge case. Otogakure had gotten pretty strong recently and his son wiped it out with one jutsu. Anko was equally shocked and got actually a bit wet. Oh, who was she shitting? She was drenched. He not only this pedophile bastard Orochimaru, but he also wiped out all of his forces with one jutsu. The fact that he also raided Bastard's research gave her some hope that he could find a way to remove her accursed cursed seal of heaven that the snake placed on her when she was still his apprentice. You the whole village? The Hokage asked, shock evident in his voice. I am sorry for losing my cool despite my training, but I don't regretting them. They were all allies with Orochimaru, so I have no qualm with their death. Naruto explained serious. So what did you find in Orochimaru's research? Minato asked, having a hard time to wrap his mind around the report his son had given him. Naruto looked at his animal friend and both nodded before they unsealed their own sealing scroll. The scrolls fell into his hands and he opened the first one. This scroll contains informations on elemental jutsu, kinjutsu like the Edo Tensei and other informations, he stated after he read the automatic created list of the sealed content. He then rolled it up and handed it to Minato, who nodded. The teen opened the second scroll and read the summary again. This scroll contains Orochimaru's Kekkei Genkai experiments and future plans in his Fuinjutsu research, such as the Cursed Seal of Heaven, he explained, getting Anko's attention. Is there a way to remove it? She asked, a bit too eager for both blondes. Both knew of her burden, but they didn't know that it was so bad. I don't know yet, but with Hokage-sama's permission I will research it and try to find a way, the teen explained and looked at his father. The blonde man felt a bit uneasy under his son's calm look and Anko's giddy smile. He knew she hated her seal and that Naruto would find a way to research the seal anyway, but with Orochimaru's notes it would be easier for him. His son was a Fuinjutsu master after all. I give you permission to use Orochimaru's notes on the Cursed Seal of Heaven to search for a way to remove or at least alter the seal so that it means no harm to Mitarashi-san again, he ordered. I will do just that, Hokage-sama. Naruto bowed to his leader. He unsealed the notes regarding the curse seal and handed the scroll to his father, who stocked them away for later inspection. Anko smiled and kissed him on the cheek, getting a blush from the Anbu. But then he caught himself again and concentrated on his task at hand. If you would excuse me now, Hokage-sama, Anko-san. I have to go to Akun's mother and inform her of her daughter's demise, he explained, sorrowful. Both nodded, and while Anko didn't know Akun well, she knew that she meant a lot to him. With that, he and his familiars vanished in a fire shunshin towards the forest of death. The three appeared in a clearing in the forest. The animals around them got silent and turned their attention to the newcomers. A giant owl turned around on a branch and looked at them. Naruto fell to his knees and pressed his hand against the ground. Risada-sama, I'm terribly sorry. I've come to inform you that your third daughter Akun died while being in my care. She died by the hands of the snake Sanin Orochimaru. Even if I have taken revenge for her, it doesn't change the fact that I have lost a very important member of your family and someone precious to me. I will accept any punishment you will give me. He bowed his head till it touched the ground and waited to be judged by the mighty owl. Risada looked at him emotionless for 10 minutes. Not one animal made a sound awaiting the mother's decision. Rise, Naruto-kun. She ordered, and he complied but still kept his head bowed down. I appreciate that your honesty and bravery to face me after your failure to protect my daughter, she stated, making him flinch as tears collected in his eyes. Yet I don't think my daughter would want me to punish you. She loved you dearly and I see that you also did. That's why I won't punish you. Yet I want you to carry the memento she asked you to make years ago from now on, she ordered, stern. He nodded and reached for his equipment seal and unsealed the scroll in it. Carefully he unrolled it and searched for a certain sealing array. The blonde pushed his chakra into it and a earring appeared. He picked it up and held the ring in his mouth while he rolled up the scroll and resealed it. With a sorrowful smile he looked at the earring in his hand. It was a silver ring to cover the outer side of the ear till the earlobe. From the lower edge went a silver chain with a Uzumaki swirl-formed ruby and a skull-formed sapphire under it. From the skull hung 2 owl feathers upside down. He removed the piercings from his right ear and packed them away. Then he put the earring on and secured them in the 3 holes in his ear. Risada looked at him and nodded. I swear on my Kekkei Genkai that I will honor Akun's memories forever, the teen exclaimed with a determinate glint in his eyes. The animals in the clearing howled in acknowledgement and approval. Minka and Sublime looked at their parents and then back to Naruto. Go on. Spend some time with your families. I can take care of myself for a few days. He nodded towards their respective families. Both looked worried for a moment but decided to follow his suggestion. They knew that they needed a break and wanted to see their families again. See you in 3 days, girls. Naruto called after them with a smile. The older animals in the clearing knew that he was sad, they smelled his sadness. Both girls smiled sadly at him but nodded. The teen turned around and walked out of the clearing. Not wanting to see anyone for a while, he decided to walk all the way back to the village. On his way there, he passed a crystal clear lake that glittered in the afternoon sun and decided to take a bath to clear his mind. The water was cold, just what he needed to clear his mind. His body was covered in tendrils and vanished again, leaving him naked. He then stepped onto the water and released the hold on his chakra under his feet, making him sink